Welcome back to Undercurrents. This is the Ordinary People podcast, and my guest today was 15 minutes early. Let this be a lesson for any other prospective guests who want to come on, who just ditch me at the last minute. Then I'm forced to do a live stream that is deeply uninteresting, and then people curse at me for being boring. I'm like, I wasn't prepared, but today I am prepared, and so is my guest, Tion Engelbrecht. Welcome to the show, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Ramon. I think that the whole ordinary people thing that you're doing, I think it's an excellent initiative. I think, we should everyone should have been lining up in a giant queue to have this actual national dialogue. So yeah.
I wish I had the national dialogue budget though to look a bit better than those.
Yeah, 700 million rand.
No, that was cut down to 600, and I think
Yeah, modest.
nothing else has happened. They had the one show where like some
Mm.
lecturer from Stellenbosch who loves pedophiles came on, and then people like shouted at each other, and then nothing else happened after that. So I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah,
But anyway,
I have
we
no
do
idea
carry on.
either.
We do carry on. So you mentioned in the notes that you had this thing at Home Affairs that has sort of not defined you, but has given you some form of consideration for the state of South Africa as we are. So I'll give you the whole platform, and please share the story as you wish to share it.
Yes. Yeah. So about a month ago, I had an opportunity to go to Japan in November now. And after recently moving, I'm like super excited for the trip. I'm like, yes, it's gonna happen. It's gonna be great. Only for me to realize that I have no idea where my passport is. My heart sank into my shoes, knowing how bad Home Affairs is and everything. But you have to do what you have to do. I can't find my passport. I have to, go through everything. And I don't know when last you had to do your passport, but you have to now do the whole online booking process, which is, it's a great idea, but I don't know, the execution of it leaves a lot to be desired. So, I mean, first off, like having to get a new passport after you've lost it is an insane, like it empties your pocket a lot faster than you think, because it's 600 rand for a passport, but then you also have to pay 600 rand penalty for losing your passport. So it's, there's 1,200 rand that I did not budget for. That's just, you know.
Yep.
So go through the whole thing, and at the end, it's also another stupid thing, in my opinion, is only at the end, then you can see, like what slots are available, where can you do it, do you go to a bank, do you go to Home Affairs? I check everywhere, in Gauteng, in the Western Cape, in the Eastern Cape. I'm not obviously flying down there just to go do it, but there's one slot available at like in like Nelson Mandela Bay for next week. But I'm like, okay, I'm shit out of luck. I'm like, okay, I have to go to the nearest one that I can see. I've lived in the Northwest for quite like quite a few years, almost 10 years now. And I've been to my fair shares of small towns, and like small like government offices in small towns, and it's 9 times out of 10 it's a ruin. Like it's incredible that there's even people there. And like, so my next thing was, okay, I grew up in Randburg, so I'll just make the drive. It's an hour and a half. Let me go check what's there. And I decided, okay, I'll go to the new Cresta one, because they made like a huge fanfare about, oh, like this is like the new office. And my thinking is, okay, it's probably got like the most up-to-date one. I know the other one in Randburg. That's why I got my ID the first one, and that was a horrific experience to just get my ID. So avoid that one at all costs. I'll rather go to the one in Cresta. Go there, then I drive through the next morning. I'm like, okay, I'll be there early. They open at 8, so I'll be there at 7. Especially since I don't have an appointment, they have to do the appointments first, and then whoever's extra, then you get your chance. Go there, get it's in. I don't know if you've been to that Home Affairs, but like it's when you're in Cresta in the shopping mall, like it's like in the furthest, quietest corner. So it's already a bit, like depressing to just like hang around in this, like really cold.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it. Like it feels like something out of like liminal horror or something. It's just like this eerie sort of corner of the mall where no one goes. But anyways, get there. The line is incredibly long already. So already my heart sank into my shoes, and I'm like, okay, I know I'm gonna have a long day here. And like maybe two shops next to the Home Affairs there's a post office as well. Post office isn't open yet. But now I'm just like standing around. I'm not really talking. There's everyone's sort of still waking up, and there's this one family in front of me, and they have to do their. They have two boys, and they have to do their passports, and I'm already like. The two boys, I'm like listening to them, and they're like, "Dad, how long is this gonna take?" And I don't have the heart to tell them, like, "Listen, this is gonna be a rough day for you. You're gonna very quickly learn, like
Yeah.
this is going to be the government. Anyways, 8 o'clock comes, Home Affairs opens, guy comes out, does his whole speech of, this is who we're going to take in now. If you don't have an appointment, just shut up and stand there, and, you might be helped. And the post office opens, but now, okay, so let me go back a bit. So now you're just standing in the queue. There's barely any chairs. There's maybe like 7 chairs that they've put out for people. And, like you would think if you're like a thing based on, okay, we're going to have a lot of people waiting, like maybe invest in a few more chairs. It might be a good idea. But I see the post office start opening, but the lights are still off, and there's only like a few like backlights on. And I have to, or I'm like seeing, okay, staff go in and everything, but the lights are still off, but they're like opening the doors and they're like starting up everything. But it's still, like there aren't any lights on in the place. And that's just how it was for the whole day. It's, I think, so incredibly depressing, or I can only imagine to have to work there, like in this like office from the 90s that still hasn't been like renovated or anything. The lights don't work. There are all of these like empty like cubicles where, imagine the post office function the way it was supposed to. Like you've got all of these like nice open booths, and there's no one there. It's as I was standing there, I'm just like, yes, imagine, or maybe I'm like dreaming too much, but just like imagine how nice it would have been to actually use this infrastructure properly, to actually be able to go to a post office, to have all of this, ready, instead of, like getting shafted by courier guy with how their prices are going up and everything. But anyways, as the day goes on, we get to, because we're still standing outside of the Home Affairs. I just want to preface this as well. Like we haven't even entered the building yet, and it's already like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. You're just standing there. And, we get to the chairs, and I'm like, okay, like let me rather give my chair to someone who needs to use it more. Like there are quite a lot of elderly people, and, like there's a pregnant lady as well. So I'd rather, give the chair to them. But eventually my back also gets quite sore. I have a 2-year-old boy, and he, is I just get abused every day. So, anyway, so eventually I decide, okay, like maybe I should just sit down a bit as well. But I'm like between 2 chairs, and I go to sit down, and a security guard walks by, and he tells me, no, I must stand. I can't sit. And I'm like,
No.
I'm sorry, like, what do you mean I can't sit? There are people sitting everywhere. And he's like, no, I must stand. I think to myself, like, yeah, I can throw up a hissy fit right now and go like, oh, no, you can't do this, what. Outside, it's not worth the effort. I've made it to this point. Let me, just rather stand. But he made everyone else stand. It's baffling to me that, this is the hill you choose to die on. Is like, no, like, I know you've been standing here for hours, but you're not allowed to sit unless you're in the chair. So I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. But anyways, as the day goes on, like I start to get to know the people around me, and it was actually, like you couldn't, the DA couldn't make such a diverse group even if it tried. It's, there's a Muslim family, there's the English family, there's a lady from the Vrystaat who's an Afrikaans teacher, there's a colored lady and a daughter. And like we're all like starting to talk and getting to know each other. And I think the incredible thing, and like I bet you've experienced this as well, is once you start to like put people from like all walks of life together, what happens most of the time is we'll moan for like 10 minutes and go like, oh yes, this is cock and I hate waiting. And I see this comment, the bookings at the bank was up until like booked till November, and I have to leave in November, so I can't like only go for application then. So I was on a bit of a time crunch there, so I had to do it. Anyways, and the once everyone like stopped moaning and stopped going like, oh, this is so cuck and everything, everyone started coming with solutions. And like, oh, like maybe we should do this, or oh, maybe we should do that, or like this would be a lot faster. And the one lady who's there, she worked for the Department of Water in Johannesburg, and she started explaining, like, oh, like this is usually how like working government, since it's unionized, blah 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 blah.
Yep.
And
People don't
I
realize
just found that,
so.
yeah. And like I spend a bit of time on X, and I read, I think being an Afrikaner myself, like we're if you read X, we're public enemy number one about, and it does become quite a bit disheartening to keep like seeing all of this like vitriol about, oh, like you're not allowed to be Afrikaner, and Afrikaners are the worst, and blah 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 blah. And I think that day, like, and spending time with everyone, it's just, once again, it's just that thing that X really is not real life. The internet is not real life, not at all. I just found that to be like the most like on the ground example of that. Like no one was saying, "Oh, you're an Afrikaans guy, I hate you." No one.
No, of course not.
And who would? I wouldn't say to anyone else around me there, like, oh, you look different than me, or you speak a different language, I don't like you. No one's like that in real life. But it's like that Mike Tyson quote where everyone talks shit on the internet, but no one wants to get punched in real life. So it's
Correct.
it's the same thing.
It's another quote that I know. People love democracy, but they hate politics. It's like, okay, so why do you love democracy then? So that's essentially what it is. But Tiaan, if I may, just quickly interject.
Yes, please.
We had my first daughter in 2017. So in 2016, I was broke and my wife was broke as well. And we said, you know what, we need like a baby cot. But, you go to the shops and they're like 10,000 Rand, 8,000 Rand. I was like, no, I need one for like 2,000 Rand or 3,000 Rand maximum. Nothing fancy, just a baby cot. We go on Facebook, we go everywhere. And then there's this one factory in Katlehong. I'm like, Katlehong, shit, man. Anyway, so we bring the mother-in-law along. She wants to come see this factory in Katlehong. So we're like, okay, cool, let's go on a Saturday. We're going to Katlehong, and I know Katlehong relatively well because I grew up not too far from there, and a lot of the people that worked in the area where I grew up used to come from there. So I didn't know it well, but we used to go in sometimes and help out, whatever the case might be. So we drove into Katlehong on a Saturday morning, and then we just hear this like, not a toy, but just people singing and like stepping off feet and whatever. Like, oh fuck, it's a protest delivery strike or whatever. No, it was a funeral for an ANC cater, right? But you had a procession, everyone in MK uniform, like full on combat boots, and they were just like just stamping their feet and singing. And I actually stopped on the side of the road and I was like, look at them. They were, 2-3 meters away from me. And I was like, I can see why this is like, why people like this stuff. Like I felt quite energized, like looking at it, because it was quite a thing to see. And people were friendly, and
Yeah.
there was no
Yeah.
animosity whatsoever. But when you see them in procession, singing, stamping their feet, I was like, yeah, okay, it's a part of South Africa I don't really know, but I can see why you look at that. You're like, I want to be part of that.
Mm,
So
mm,
anyway,
mm.
that was just on the
Yeah.
way. Then we get to the factory. It was some building that was probably like hijacked by this person who was making these baby cots. And this loveliest
Mm.
lady and her husband and her eldest son were making these things by hand, like sawing them and sandpapering them and whatever. And we bought it, and I said, okay, cool, delivery. No, we can deliver it on Monday. Delivery is X amount of rands, and we paid her. And I was like, I'm gonna get screwed here, man. I don't think this is gonna work out. But anyway, we took
Yeah.
the risk. Bingo. Monday they came in, they assembled it for us. We still use it to this day, 3 years later. And it was
Fantastic.
back then. It was back then in 2016. So I went to Wits. I met so many different, diverse people. I've always had the feeling that South Africans are normal for the most
Mm.
part, right? They're just normal people. Grew up in the south of
Yeah.
Joburg, not the nicest place. It was a bit rough, but normal people. But it was that day where I bought this cart from someone from the other side, like a completely different class, completely different culture, completely different ethnicity. And you agreed on the trade, and both parties supported that contract and effected it. And to this day, we still use the same cart. And it was that day where I was like, you know what? Like all this politics is like just basically bullshit, right? Like
Yeah.
that's all it
Yeah.
is. That's
I
all it
was
is.
about to say, like as I'm standing there and I'm having these conversations with people, and like, oh, like they're going to Abu Dhabi, or they need to do this, or they need to do that, and I'm like, none of these people, if you would throw them, let's say, into a room with the average ex, like debater who's only obsessed with like, who, whatever's, what's an ex, but these
Yeah,
people would just go, who cares? Who cares? I just want my passport
exactly.
and I just want to get on with my life, and it's sort of, it's so refreshing to like have this like, I don't know, just this first-hand experience of just people going like, no one gives a shit about these like deep, intricate politics and the like the state of this and that. Everyone just wants to go on with life. Everyone just wants their passport. They just want water. You know, it's as basic as that. That's, in my opinion,
Yeah,
if you want to win someone over, shut up, fix something, and just say, okay, cool, this is fixed.
sure.
I will vote for the first party who will just shut up and fix things.
So you're so
That's
you
my
so you're a DA voter, in other words.
no. No, unfortunately, they've nuked their support from me over the last year or
They
so.
fix
I've
stuff. They fix stuff for the poor. I mean, 95% of the infrastructure budget goes to like immigrants from the Eastern Cape. That's fixing stuff, Tion. Come on.
yeah, sure, but I mean, yeah. I'll get to that. Let me finish my story before
Sorry,
before
go
I
ahead,
get
go ahead.
completely off track. Yeah, so anyways, so just to refresh, I got there at about 7:30 and it's 2 o'clock. And they close at 4:30. And I'm like, okay, finally I get to enter the pearly gates of Home Affairs. Get in there, and I'm like, oh, thank heavens I'm inside now. They have to help me. They can't lock me inside. I hope they can't. But anyways, and I see the one like manager guy walking up to us, and he's like, sorry guys. And the moment he said sorry guys, I'm like, I will, I'm gonna go home in the newspaper with like man murders 17 people more on page 3. Anyways, and but he says no, like he has to let the meet and greet lady go on lunch, so we have to wait for an hour. And I'm like, anyways, it's fine. I'm inside. I can wait. It's fine. But the lady, then out of, like just out of having a kind heart, she's like, the moment the manager turns his back, he's like, come, 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 come. Let me help you. Let me. And she's like pushing through people like crazy. So I can only say to whatever that lady's name was, I'm eternally grateful for you. Thank you. But, so now I'm inside, and my ticket number is like 242, and they're calling like 175, and I'm like, oh man, like the wait has only begun. The day has only just started, and as I'm sitting there, it just hits me like a ton of bricks that like there's 9 booths open for where people could be helped. There's only 2 staff members on duty. It's not their fault. They rocked up. They're there. They're doing the best they can. But I am. It really just sort of depressed me as I was sitting there thinking like, how hard can it be to just find 7 more staff members to train, to just, like Home Affairs is never not busy. I've never been to a Home Affairs where it's not, like wall to wall people. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, what could the reason be for not having someone in every booth? Like it's the salaries are standardized, so it's not a thing that like they it's like a performance incentive where you get a bonus based on the amount of people that you help. Like we even spoke about that like amongst ourselves. And the lady who works in government says, no, like since it's unionized, like you can't give performance incentives. Everyone has to be paid the same thing. So it's I think that makes it a bit worse as well, because what's the incentive to like do your job well? What's the incentive to like work more efficiently? It's you need to give, I think, someone just like if you do your job, you get your salary. If you do your job well, like just dangle the carrot. I don't know how else to explain it.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, sitting there and just thinking like, man, we could have been done so much faster than it's going now. Because the other thing is, you can make it go even faster, help more people by like dividing up people who are there for walk-ins and people who are there for appointments. Like that's such a simple solution. But now you're putting everyone who has appointments first in front of the people who are there for walk-ins, and it just gums up the whole system. That's why you're sitting there until like 3 o'clock and everything. But anyways, eventually, luckily, here it is. I have it in my hands.
There we go.
I picked it up the other day. And to their credit, it was quite fast. That's why I went to Johannesburg instead of somewhere in the northwest, because I know that the printing thing is in Pretoria. So it would be a lot faster for them to just ship it down, down to Johannesburg as opposed to wherever in Rustenburg or in Potch or in Klerksdorp or whatever. It would take so much longer. And since I'm on a time deadline, I'd rather just make the drive. But anyways, ended up being helped. Said my goodbyes to the people that I've met that day, and I actually felt like sort of like I wish I could have stayed longer and talked to them more, and like really like got to know everyone. Shame the one lady from the Muslim family, like she, while we were sitting in line, she like brought a bag of like Kit Kats for everyone, and she's like handing them out, saying like, oh guys, like here's something for you. It's like just like this basic sort of kindness, and like like we're all in this together. It doesn't matter if we have differing ideas or whatever. We're all in the same Home Affairs shit show, so let's just get to it together.
If I may,
Yes.
maybe this is what that social cohesion is all about. Make the system so ineffective, people are forced to talk to each other online.
Yeah. I was about to say, I think that's the best thing of, like if you want to unite South Africa, just make the government worse. make it so that, people have no other choice but to work together. Just to finish up this story, the next day, I had to do the international driving permit. So luckily, the automotive association guys, they handle all of that. It took me start to finish 2 minutes. Like I entered all my things on their website, paid, rocked up. They said, "Oh, hello, yeah, we have your things, stamp. Here's your photo. Bye." How can how? And it's not, like you can't blame it and say, "Oh, like there's a high volume of people coming in." Like no. the it's the system that we use. It's if like Home Affairs has your details. Why do I have
Well,
to fill in a new thing every time, and why do I have to like do all of these things again when it could be as easy as just do all of that online, do biometrics, you know, do the photo thing online or whatever, like you can make it so much faster. But it just comes down to, I think, like you have to, or let me rather say it like this. I think the thing with Home Affairs, especially that one, is it's not the fault of the staff. Like they rock up, they, you know, they have to look at everyone who's pissed off at them for sitting outside the whole day. So, how
well,
would you work if you,
no wonder
had
they
to.
no wonder they don't rock up, right? I also wouldn't rock up.
Exactly.
But I
It's the
mean,
same thing with the post office as well. I would be so depressed and I would be so disincentivized to have any pride in my work if I had to sit in a dark office from the 90s the whole day. It's you can make these things, like, from a human resource perspective, so much easier. But yeah.
yeah, I mean, I was, I had the same ideas as you. In my past, I'm not saying I'm better than you or whatever the case might be, by any means. But
No.
I think once I was invited to join the government, and I said
Mm.
yes to my detriment. And then I was the only one fired from government in the past 30 years.
Yeah.
And not for any disciplinary issues or theft or fraud or whatever. No, it's just
Mm.
because you're conservative or whatever the case was. Um, People don't understand what it is until you're in it. Right. And the
Yeah.
government is basically daycare for 2 million people in this country. That's
Yeah.
essentially what
Like,
it is. It's like, here's the process. The goals don't matter. Like the goals, nothing, the goals don't matter. What only matters is the process followed. And if you go
yeah.
out of the process, it's wrong, right? Then we need a disciplinary hearing, and your crime is you actually did something. Like you actually solved the problem. Like that's terrible.
Yeah.
We can't do that.
Yeah. How dare you?
At all. Yeah. And what you find is that the people that knocked on my door the most when I was in that office in Pretoria was the unions. No, right?
Oh.
All the time.
Yeah.
We need to speak to the minister about this labor case or this labor case or whatever. I'm like, I don't give a shit about your labor cases. Go to speak to HR. We the minister. We the ministry here, not HR. And,
Yeah.
and in essence, so I said, okay, fine. I need to work with you. The minister said, let's just work with them. So fine. And it was this one case. This woman was like promoted, but then they moved her sideways for the same salary band, but the different title. And it's been going for like 8 years. I'm like, okay, fine. Let's hear this case. So this woman, the victim, rocks up in a brand new Range Rover Sport, like brand new, like sparkling, 2 million rand car, earning
Just.
60,000 rand a month, right, as a chief director, or 70,000 rand a month as chief director, or something like other. And I look at this, and then the How comes in, like in their city golfs, and they're like quantum taxis, right, into the office. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is going on here? Like this woman is obviously has a rich boyfriend or a rich husband or is connected or is stealing or whatever. I don't know. I actually don't know. And she's fighting
Yeah.
for this title for 8 years, taking up everyone's time. Just tell the bitch to fuck off. Excuse my language. I apologize. But just tell her to fuck
Yeah.
off. Like honestly now. Oh, we can't do that because of process. I'm like, fuck your
Yeah.
process. I can't give a shit. Like, I don't care about your process. No, process is very important. I'm like, have you guys actually, do you have any KPIs for absolutely anything in terms of staff, in terms of what they're supposed to do, in terms of what you're supposed to do as a department, what you want to achieve, what are the solutions to issues that the industry brings to you? Fuck all.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And this is endemic across every single municipality, every single government institution, every single SOE, everywhere you go, that is what it is. There is zero leadership and authority to actually get shit done. It's daycare for adults. And if you see it that way, it doesn't make any difference. You understand it much better. And solutions are the enemy of daycare.
Mm. Yeah. No, you need busy work. Yeah,
Just
but I
insane.
mean, it's the day overall. I don't, it left such an impact on me. Like the sort of the duality of the day, where I had, on the one hand, I had a fantastic day. Like getting to talk to everyone and getting to know everyone, and like hearing, oh, like this is what I do for a living. This is where I'm gonna go. Just having a nice chat with everyone. But the flip side of that, having it, like be on the backdrop of the most like depressing, like worst functioning thing that you've ever been like involved in, it's just it's South Africa. Just a short thing on the just a different story as well is we were one Christmas, we were in the Karoo for Christmas, and we were driving back on the 26th, drive through the Northern Cape, get into the Northwest, and I think we're just outside, just after Bloem, just outside Christiana.
Yeah.
And the guys decided, no, they're going to have a protest that day. And very smart, they set up right where the road has like these two sort of slopes, so you can't drive around it or anything. The only way to like get, like past this on the N12 is to turn back to Bloemfontein to then drive a different road. So it's like a 4.5 hour turn just to get to where you were. And, like police were on holiday because it's, like the day after Christmas. It's the Northwest. Nothing, like nothing barely functions there, like, oh, it's insane. So we got there. I think we stopped at around 1:30. And it's like the searing December heat in the Northwest. It's like 42 degrees outside. Traffic just keeps on piling. And these guys are just like, no, there's no water in town, so this is why we're protesting and no one's allowed to drive through. We're like, okay, let's call the police. Firstly, Christiana's police department didn't even answer. So we're like calling like Warrington or like the neighboring towns or whatever. And eventually, like at 5 o'clock, the police get there. So we've been like in the sun, and it's like a backup going like kilometers going back. It's trucks, it's people coming back from holidays, it's gogos, it's you name it. And everyone's getting, but no one wants to say like let's just form a mob and go fight. Like no one wants to do that. But once again, the funniest thing happens is everyone's just like, okay, this is life now. I see like some guys like packing up their camping chairs, having a few drinks, like setting up a gazebo. Everyone's like sharing water. We're just like, no, we'll just wait this out. It's fine. And eventually police gets there from like 2 towns over. They thankfully, like, I don't know, I can't remember if it was like stun grenades or non-lethal, the like beanbag shots that they use or whatever, but they get them away. We drive through, but that day as well was like, like sitting for 6.5 hours in the Northwest sun is, like if I can survive that queue, then I can survive Home Affairs, then I can survive anything. That's like been my big thing. If I can wait for that long in the sun, then I'll be fine. But yeah, it's just been it's so interesting to, I think, see, like what's being said online and like what's the discourse online, and like versus being in person and just having a chat with someone. It's like I don't think I've ever seen, like, let's say it's like a vitriolic thing between two people on X or whatever. I've never seen that in real life, to be quite honest with you. I've never seen just like two average people going at each other over, like some deep topic about politics. Maybe it happens more, then maybe I'm just sheltered, but I mean, it's, yeah, the overall the day was just like, South Africa's not as cuck as we think, like it's actually,
No,
like it's quite a nice place.
when I was growing up in the south of Joburg, there was a plot next door, and a lot of police guys lived there, like older, like 45-year-old white police guys, They used to go like out in Soweto in the 80s during the People's War and try to break up the riots and all sorts of things. So very hardened sort of criminal, not hardened criminal, but like hardened police officers. One was head of the horse unit, the other one was head of the dog unit, and the stories they used to tell for hours was great. But anyway, so the one day they're like, "Oh, Ramon, I was 9, 10. I think, do you come on patrol with us?" I'm like, "I'm gonna get like murdered and whatever." It's like, "No, no, no, don't worry, we'll protect you."
Yeah.
And my dad says, "Yeah, go on patrol. Come on, come see the real South Africa." So I'm like, "Oh, shit, okay."
Yeah.
But this is 1999, right? And yes, it's the amount of people that I saw got beaten up, not by the police, but by each other that day. Like, and I was 10, and you see people like blood all
Sure.
over the place. And like, for example, there was two people fighting, and then one stabbed the other, and whatever the case might be. So they took the one who stabbed him, put him in the car behind us. They were all piss drunk, the people, and they drove 20 k's and then just kicked him off. They're like, "Come, find your way home. You do it again, we're gonna put you or take you to prison or whatever." So I said, "Why don't you just book this guy in? This is a crime." And they're like, "The punishment, this is worse." Because he goes to jail today, he sobers up tomorrow, he pays $500, then he's on the road again, and then the court will say, "Oh, there's no evidence," and off he goes. Yeah, he has to walk 20 k's home. He's going to fucking remember that for a very long time.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense. But it was all done in, I'm not saying they were having fun, the cops, but it was all done like, "Yeah, this is just what we do." It's like you have the process, but the process doesn't actually denote punishment. But if you drop the guy off 20 k's away and make your way home, you don't have to book him. You don't have to follow the process, but he's going to learn a lesson. Hopefully, he's going to learn a lesson. And just at the end of the day, it's just like 18 to 25-year-old kids, like, should be in on a Friday night, and it gets a bit heated. It's what happens, right? We're not going to come in. Why fuck up their lives? It's like, it happens. Learn a lesson, and there you go. And what I realized that night was everyone who was arrested or we dropped off somewhere or whatever the case might be, like, they sort of accepted that this is the way things are done. I think if we went to the police station and they were booked in the cell, they would have been like, "What the fuck? What's going on?" Like, "Oh, I have to walk 20 k's."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to pivot a bit, I mean, so my son was born 2 years ago. He just turned 2 now in October. And like, I'll never, everyone says it, but I'll never forget the day that he was born. He was born at, I think, 9:03 in the morning. And I remember, like, you go through the whole thing and you're like, wow, like, here's my son and everything. And then you realize, okay, like, now the day starts. Like, you've been up since like 2 a.m. And now it's like, okay, you have to fill in these forms. You have to do this. You have to do that. Wada. And go through the whole day, learn everything you have to learn about, how to have a newborn and everything. And as I got home, I remember laying in bed and I remember thinking, like, wow, I really now have, like, it's like sinking in, like, I really have a son now. I have to, like, really, I have to plan the future for him, and like, what he has to go to school, and like, how will he go to school, and he has to, what if he's like on a camp or something, then he has to get on a bus, will he be fine on the bus? Like, I'm having this like snowball of thoughts in my mind about, like, oh shit, like, all of these like concerns and things like start rushing in. But like that, as I was looking for my passport, actually, I found a box of, like, a bunch of things from my childhood, and like, I go through memory lane and everything, and the thought sort of stuck with me. It's like, how's my son's childhood gonna look like? Like, do I just want to, like, have him exposed to the world, or do I go full authoritarian mode and say, no, this is this and this is that and whatever? And it got me thinking about, like, how was I raised? Like, how did my father raise me? How was his father? How did his father raise him? And in regards to my father, he this is another pivot, I know, but when it was the border war, he was an ops medic at 18, 19. It's like he's told us hundreds of stories of the cock that they used to like jag on, like during like training or whatever. But I haven't heard one story, and I'll never, like even ask him, because just saying, like, no, I was an ops medic and I had to, if a guy's shot in half, figure out what to do. Like imagine that at 18, 19 is horrific, and it got me thinking about, like the generational thing as well. It's like how it's actually such a shame, like the border war and everything, and like the effect that it had on that generation. I think it's one of the like least talked about things. I think there should be a lot more discussion about, like those guys, fought for years, and then it was like, okay, no, we're done, go home, and we'll lose the border as well. Sorry.
Yeah, and lost. That's the thing,
Yeah.
right? I mean, they lost,
Yeah.
and so you have thousands, tens of thousands of men who have gone to war, and like we think that, but they were fighting for apartheid, so it doesn't really matter. It's like, well, I mean, they're still citizens of our country, right? They're still raising families. They're still And I'm actually.
I mean, my father didn't go because he's a avid fan of politics. He went because it's
conscription.
That's what you had to do. Yeah,
of course.
And like the concept of like debriefing or therapy or whatever, it didn't exist back then. So you have these tens of thousands of men going home, to just say, okay, cope, and I've heard so many stories of other people's fathers, just completely going off the deep end, losing it, whether it's alcoholism or suicide or whatever. And, it got me thinking about, I'm just so extremely thankful for the way that my father raised me, for the fact that, despite the horrors that they had to go through, he just went, like, yes, this happened. I have to deal with it and go on, and I have to, not let any of that like seep over to how I raise my son or my sons,
Yeah.
And, from there, as I was like going through memory lane, I found an old flag, not the old South African flag. No, I found a flag that me and my friends painted when we were in the Voortrekkers. And this was like 20 years ago. So I don't know how much you know about the Voortrekkers thing that the primary school and high school kids do.
Well, it was like scouts for Afrikaners.
Pretty much, yeah. And I did it for the majority of my, like time in school. I did it from grade 1 to about grade 10, grade 11-ish. And, like at the time, it was just like, oh, I'm just having fun with my friends. I'm just going out and going on a camp with my friends or whatever. And, like seeing our old team flag and thinking like, actually, this was such a like formative thing for me, like far more formative than I would have, I think I've only unlocked this revelation after being a father now is, like thinking like, oh, wow, like this really taught me so much, especially growing up in Randburg, like you're not far from like the outdoors, but you're also not close to the outdoors, and it provided this like just lovely platform to say, okay, like we'll go to this farm, and it's like the Kumandu, which is like everyone in your school will go like on a camp, and like you'll have fun and you'll learn all these things. But there are these, like small things that really stuck with me where, like every morning and every afternoon we would have vlagparade. So we would have like the flag parade, everyone like grade 1 to grade 7, when you're in high school as well, grade 8 to grade 12, everyone is in formation. Everyone's like, like standing op aandag. The kids do, they raise the flag, they do the ceremony, they do everything. And at the time, you're like, oh, yeah, I have to wake up so early and then stand in the cold and everything. But, like when we did I think it was the 7th grade, you have to do like this big test to see like how much information have you learned. before you can go on to do it in high school. And, like actually being the person who has to like coordinate like this whole thing at like you're like 12 or 13, and now you have to say, okay, we're going to do a flag parade. It's it taught me so much more than, and I'm
Yeah.
realizing it now than I think I realized it then. Something as so stupid as there was for the school camps, we had a trophy for the best inspection, you know. So whose room is like in the morning the cleanest? And we had like this whole thing. Everyone was like in a row outside the door, waiting for one of the, like officieren to come and do inspection and everything. And we would like down to the millimeter, like get the pillows, like each one ready, the bags in the same spot, not a single blade of grass in the room. And once again, we just did it because we wanted to win. But looking back, it's like that taught me so much about the importance of cleanliness and how to look at detail and how to, just all of these skills that sort of go into the back of your mind.
But I think
The the
most importantly, Tian, and this is something that I've realized also when having children, is like the understanding of what authority is. Because we can
Yes,
say it's
absolutely.
completely pointless to be like squeaky clean and to have like no blade of grass in the tent, or the bag must be in this millimeter, whatever. It's complete bullshit, and we all seem to know it. But
Yeah.
if the person that we think is a leader says so, we will do the most absurd things. It gets taken sometimes to an absurd conclusion, right? Like look
No,
at
of course.
tyrannical dictators of the world. But when it's done right, the effect of leadership on a group of people or a
Mm,
club or whatever the case might be is something that I feel is not something we are quite willing to embrace in our
mm,
current social climate. We are led by managers, not leaders. So if the manager
mm,
says,
mm,
we had a meeting, and in the meeting, like all the executives said, we would prefer for your bags to be here, but it's not, it doesn't have to be like precisely here. It can be like sort of in this area.
mm.
It doesn't matter. No, no, it has to be as the whatever the leader. I say it has to be 2 millimeters east and whatever 2 millimeters west of your bed. The more precise and the more strict, the better people perform, I find. But now
Yeah,
we're all in this
absolutely.
managerial thing where we're looking at like what are the goals and how best to achieve them, and everyone can have their say. No, no, not everyone can have their say. We're going to do
Mm,
this, and this is how we're going to do it. And if you don't want to do it, fuck off. Simple.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
the world was a better place when we had the latter.
yeah. I mean, the whole other thing that I'm extremely thankful for my time in the Voortrekkers was the amount of history and Afrikaner history that we, like were taught that just was not covered at all, like in school or whatever. And, like stories, like incredible stories. I mean, Volrad Voltemade, for example, or Dirkie Ice, or even though it's a myth, but something like Racheltjie de Beer, like the girl who sacrificed herself for a brother to keep him warm. Whether it's a story or not, it's stories from your heritage that
Mm.
I think it's so thrown to the wayside, and you know once again, if you were to compare it to it, like if you were to give it to an online audience, they would all like vilify you and say, "Ah, no, you're not allowed to know anything about Afrikanerdom. How dare you?" But once again, like in practice, if I were to talk about these things with my Home Affairs group that I had, they would go, "Oh yeah, wow, that's really cool. That's really nice."
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and yeah, it's just the trickle down effect of that is like, oh, these things like the we always spoke about the RBSCs of Voortrekkers, which is Afrikanerskap, Burgerskap, and Christenskap. Like those like core. I would use your word, those core virtues. Let's
Yes,
say that.
thank you.
Um, I like that. I think
My influence is spreading. Great.
Yeah, I think virtue, the word virtue carries more weight than value. I think
Yes,
it's stuck. Let's just say that. But,
good.
it's just like these things are so much more important than I think we realize. And you can in the same breath say, oh, like the NP. you know, apartheid was terrible. It was absolutely horrific, and it should be, it should be remembered as such. But you can also say, oh wow, like the stories of bravery during the Boer War, or during the Bloedrivier. Even that.
Yeah.
We go every year. We go to Gelofte Dag thing, and every day it's like, wow, like that's actually such an incredible story.
Yeah, I
And
mean, we know the Battle of Isidwala like backwards because like the Zulus defeated the British, but I mean the reality is like the British were completely unprepared. Didn't know that 4,000 warriors,
mm,
impies were around the corner, and it was a surprise attack. It was an ambush and a guerrilla tactic. Like let's be honest, but kiddos like the Zulus should bloody well own it, and the Afrikaners
mm,
should congratulate them because the British are the enemy of both groups,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean,
like,
yeah.
I completely understand that. But if you have bloodtrophy where it's like between two African tribes, like they're not allowed to talk about it. Why? I think you
Mm,
should.
mm,
Absolutely. And funny enough, in my experience, the Zulus and the Afrikaners respect each other more than any two other groups I can think of in our country.
mm. Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's I saw the video that you did about like comparing the Afrikaners and the Zulus, and I also found that like quite insightful. So yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And as I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, I really, not that I would uh, force my will upon my son or anything. Like it's at the end of the day, it's his
You
choice.
should.
But
No, you
I
should.
would really, I would really love to, like also having experience having fun with your friends and learning things. Like there's things I learned in Voortrekkers, like how to tie a knot. Like if you, not to generalize, but if you had to take the average teenager now and say, okay, can you tie this knot? They would go, huh? you know, it's
That
like
was
these little
literally just yeah.
important, yeah, yeah, true. It's like these little important things, like how to read a compass. How do I make a fire? How do I shoot a bow and arrow? How do what if a building is burning? How do I like save myself? Like these are all things that we like got the experience or like had the opportunity to experience. And this isn't like I wouldn't also say it's like an elitist thing, like, oh, you had to pay hundreds of thousands of rand for this. Like most of the times these things were free. And,
Yeah.
like for a
Yeah.
camp, you would pay like a nominal fee or whatever.
I mean, the
But
problem with late stage capitalism is like they sell you all this in a course, a survival course, and they charge you lots of money. I was like, oh, you can do that. We did this for free for hundreds of years, and now we have to pay.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't go
yeah.
I don't go to a comment very quickly. Joan Stewart, the South African Girl Guide, which is like the sort of English equivalent, went to Rhodesia.
Mhm.
Joan, we can't say that word. I'm sorry. It's called Zimbabwe now. It's been decolonized, but they went by train to Rhodesia, camping on a farm in Mutare with Mrs. Butters in about 1968. Experience of a lifetime. And I think, Joan, between you and everyone watching, this is the greatest tragedy of South Africa post 1994, where the low trust society prohibits this sort of thing from happening again. It prohibits people from actually partaking in social events with people that they don't know. And I think that's one of the greatest tragedies post 94. Which is why if I was a politician, like I would say, like, first and foremost, crime is like we're just gonna shoot everyone in the head who even tries to upset the social order. And really,
Mm.
Donald Trump was asked a question yesterday about Venezuelan drug boats, and the person was like, "Yeah, but I mean, shouldn't you prosecute them?" It's like, if you bring drugs, we're gonna kill you. You're gonna be dead.
Mm.
That's it. Like this is the real war on drugs. It's not a process-driven thing. It's an action-driven thing. And
Yeah.
I would love to have action-driven politics in this country. I really would. Which is why I keep talking about politics, unfortunately. But yeah. Anyway, it's a great tragedy that your childhood, my childhood. I mean, I was walking around with a point two at 8 years old shooting things. Like now, I
Mm.
mean, I'm sure you. Anyone, if I give my 8-year-old daughter a point two right now, I mean, geez, I can imagine. I can't imagine what would happen. But I was shooting
Yeah.
gazelle and spiders and
Yeah.
all by myself, right? So I was like, I feel free reign. Here's a point two. Happy birthday. Go shoot things.
Yeah, I
Quite
mean,
unusual.
if I look,
Okay.
if I think back at, like how I grew up, like in the one area where we lived in Randburg, like there was a little park, like two or three houses, like up from where we used to live, and I remember taking my bike and just going there, you know, and it's like in the middle of Randburg. I wouldn't even now, just like in my ripe old age of 29, like walk around in Randburg. You'd be crazy to do that. And like
Yeah.
all of these things are in the back of my mind with my son, and I'm extremely thankful and grateful for the opportunity that, like we're on a farm. I get to raise him on a farm. He's around animals. He gets to experience these things. And I can see just the positive effect that it has on him. Like I can see like, and this isn't like to brag and say, oh, I'm father of the year and I do it the best or anything, but it's it's so great to be able to see, like the is it the right way to say it, but like the real time payoff of like, oh, like these things that I want to, like I want to do for my son, and the platform that I give him, like it's paying off. And it's like, like he's turning, like he's only 2, so I mean his emotions are still all over the place, but like even at the age of 2, like he's considerate. He knows how to like work with animals. He knows not to crush a chicken when he picks him up, like these like little things.
Yeah.
It's
But why do you
things that I'm just
always,
so extremely grateful for.
and you should be, and I do the same with my children. Thankfully, we have often the occasion to go to the Waterberg or farms all over the place and shoot guns and walk around nature and whatever the case might be. They don't shower for 4 days, and my wife gets upset. And I'm like, shut up, it's a farm. It's a farm.
Yeah, yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
no, my wife and I, we get along very well, thankfully. But why do you keep saying, I don't want to be elitist? I think you should, Tian. Not you specifically, but everyone. Like, why
Mm.
this t-shirt, this liberal like mind virus that we all have, where like, I want the best for my son, but if you want the best for your son, then you have to be elitist, right? You should never,
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
you should never
True.
apologize for that. I don't want to put you on the spot. I'm not, I'm not your
No,
father.
no, not at all.
I
Not
don't
at
want to
all.
act like I'm being arrogant, but when I tell my
Yeah.
kids things, like I took them, we got library cards. I didn't know libraries existed. They still do. And my suburb in Joburg has a library, and it's very
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, yeah.
And they were
Now,
out of
shout out to
school.
the Bosgrain Library for anyone who's there. It's
Oh, really?
I spent so much time there as a child. The Bosgrain Library was great.
Yes, I won't tell you where my library is. I don't want to dox myself, but I went there with
Yeah,
my
don't
kids.
dox yourself.
I went there with my kids, and I say, whenever we go shopping, I said, I'll buy anytime you want a book, I'll buy it for you. I don't care if it's a coloring book or a sticker book or whatever book, but I will get it, and I do. But now we have too many books, so I said, okay, fine, let's go to the library. And they're like, "What's a
Yeah.
library?" And I felt like such a failure. Like, a library is
Yeah.
where you get books for a week and then you bring them back, and they're like, "Oh, interesting concept. Yes, it is interesting. Let's go." So I signed them up. And they walked in the library and they're like a bit astounded. And they tell me, so all these books here, like we can just like use them whenever we want to. I was like, absolutely. And like the greatest day of their life, for
No.
my 2 daughters. Like, this is amazing. And I'm like, I should have done this like years ago. Like it's ridiculous. I've only
Yeah.
thought of it now.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get it. They don't have screens or they watch a bit of TV, but I'm really trying to make them comfortable being alone reading a book. I did it growing up. I had no TV until I was 16, I think. And you either get bored or you read a book. And I read many, many books growing up. And and I think I'm doing something because I want my children to be able to read and to imbibe stories. But I think because as well, I'm doing this because I'm better than any other parent who wants to give their kid an iPad. Like, I'm sorry. Like, there's
Yeah.
something very elitist within me. I go to the library, we get books, my kids read, and they shut up at
Yeah.
dinner, and they don't take screens everywhere, and we don't have screens on planes, and whatever the case might be, they'll read a book. And if
Yeah.
I feel smug about it, I will bloody well be smug about it. And I don't give a shit.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Maybe, elitist might not be the right choice of word then, but I think yeah, there's nothing to be ashamed of wanting to be, the best version of a father or as a parent that you can be. There's nothing to be ashamed of that. So
You should
it's something
pursue
to
it.
something to consider. Definitely, I'll reframe it in my mind.
You should pursue it. It's not just something to be ashamed. You should pursue it. It's not. There's
Yes,
no
definitely,
shame, like
definitely,
at all.
yeah,
In like
definitely, definitely.
even the way you phrase it, like, oh, I don't want. No, you must. Like, and be arrogant about it.
No, it's true.
It
It's
works for
true.
me. I'm not saying it works for everyone else.
Yeah. I mean, I only, like for our son as well, like I would say I'm quite, clued up on the internet and, like how everything works and everything. And for example, I am so picky and deservedly so, but with, well, like what's on TV or what's, like what's educational or what's not, because there are a lot of shows that, brand themselves as, oh, like, yeah, we're like an educational thing, but it's like the educational version of like dirt, it's bright colors and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's not teaching your child anything.
No,
Like for example, I'll only do screen time with him, but I'm watching it with him. So we'll only do like 20, 30 minutes of, you know, we'll watch Jeffro Linky, which is, if there's anyone in the chat as well who watches Jeffro Linky, it's the best thing you can do, because it's actually educational. It's in Afrikaans. It's high quality. It's 20 minutes, nice and short. We can watch an episode together. We can learn about things, and then we can, go give the chickens some feed or whatever.
correct,
I
correct.
think it's impossible. I remember when he was a newborn or an infant, we were reading up about, oh, screen time is, like so dangerous and everything. And, like they're only allowed to, like really watch screens from 2 onwards. But it's not even if, you just put your child in front of a screen. It's nearly impossible to keep your child away from screens these days. So,
No, sure. You should use them,
so
right?
you have to do the extra work and curate the content. You
Yeah,
can't just say
it's called being a
watch.
parent. It's called
Exactly.
being a parent. I
Yeah,
don't know why people are
but
like,
I
oh,
think
so
I'm
hard to
saying
raise a
these.
kid.
I think I'm saying these things
Always has
because
been.
I see and hear, like from so many people, or just like, oh, well, like this, or I see it in their children, for example, like with heavy like attention deficit, or with, I know, like my child just watches whatever they want or whatever, and then you sort of have to bite your tongue. I know you would probably go, no, don't fucking do that, but for the rest of us, you sort of have to bite your tongue a little bit and say, oh, okay, that's good for you. But I think, I don't know how much time we have left, but if I can, like just make like a last point, I think,
We over time,
being
but
a
I'm happy to have
relatively,
you on for another
okay,
few minutes.
being like a relatively new father, I mean, my son's only 2. I think the biggest thing that I've learned is that I think, especially today, fatherhood, the importance of that in society and in, how just in your own life. I cannot understand or understate enough how important it is that you should be involved in your child's life, that you should be a present father, that you should be, you know, someone that he can look up to, and it seems simple to say, it seems stupid to say the obvious, but, if a lot of my family, from both my side and my wife's side, are in education, are in, like the public school system, and they say it's not looking good. It's a dire situation, So I say this with that in mind to go, like if you are a father of a child, you need to, if you're already doing your best, great. If you're not, do your best.
Yeah,
Be present, play with your son, play with your daughter, take them wherever. Don't just, when you come home from work. I also get tired at the end of the day, but take that extra time and it will pay off. That's, I know I'm sounding a bit preachy, but I mean, yeah, it's. I sound
no, it's true.
elitist, I know.
It's true. So we decided that we were not going to do like kids things, but we're just going to include them in everything that we do. So when my first daughter was born, she went to her first wedding within 3 days, and her second
Yeah.
wedding within 10 days. We actually left the hospital early because we had to be at a wedding, and people were like, "Why?" Like,
Nice.
postpartum, the mother she dressed, and we're like, "Oh, fuck that, let's just go."
Yeah.
And we went, and it was perfectly fine. She went to more weddings in her first 10 days of life than I had in my first 20 years of life.
Yeah.
And now
No,
we
we
just
do the
do
same. I
everything
mean,
we all do, right? If I go to the shops, I'll take them along, let them walk.
yeah.
If I go
My
anywhere, we just take them. Easy.
Yeah, my wife and I used to play in a big band, in a jazz big band, and I know jazz is a contentious topic for you, so we'll skip that for another day. But so we used to play in a big band, and also my son was like 2 weeks old, and we had a gig, so we're just like, okay, well, we'll just organize someone to look after him when we're going to take him to the gig, and we're going to play the gig, and especially, I studied music. I met my wife through, music and doing gigs and everything. And we make that such a massive part of like bringing it to him as well. For his birthday, I bought him like this little drum set. It's such an important thing, to, like you said, to involve your children, not to just have your child be a passenger in the household, but to really, like make them an active participant and to
Correct.
involve them in as much as possible. Don't, just say, no, don't just because it's easier say, I'll do it. Grit your teeth, let them make a mess. It's just a mess. It'll be fine. But involve them. And yeah, it's just all of this on the back of, to say, I remember quite distinctly, like when the whole Amerikaner thing started and like there were a bunch of Afrikaners going to America. I remember distinctly having this feeling of seeing the children and thinking like, wow, like they won't be able to experience growing up in South Africa, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but there's going to be a disconnect in their heritage, and
Yep.
give it a generation or two and they'll have assimilated. And I just find that a bit sad. I find that sad to think like, like, oh, they weren't, yeah, sure, like they might be able to visit South Africa, I don't know what the future holds, but yeah, it's just sad to think that, like there's just going to be this disconnect to this far off place that they barely know. I find that quite
Yeah.
sad.
I also find it a bit sad. And I last point from my side. I went to America in
Yes.
2012, and my wife's has a very big extended family, and some of them moved to America like in the late 80s, I think. And we went to go see them in Connecticut just by chance. I think it was her father's first cousin. So we go to visit them in Connecticut. The kids had like piercings. They were smoking weed. The father was a salesman for like medical equipment, so he had like 100,000 miles a year of like driving his car around. The mother was a GP, always at work, working overtime, working from home. And okay, they had like a $1 million house in Connecticut, and there's no fencing or whatever bullshit. But I was like, I mean, did you come for this? It's got empty
Yeah.
and sad existence. Like, listen, that empty and sad existence exists in South Africa. Like, I fully accept and understand that, but it just felt like if you leave this place just to become an economic cog in someone else's market, that's how you're going to be treated at the end of the day. And if my kids rock up with piercings or smoking marijuana, I'm going to do terrible things to them. But I know within my heart they're not going to do that because they haven't been brought up with that sense of entitlement. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, good luck to those.
Yeah,
fruit
and
stackers
this
in
isn't
SA.
this. I just want to add this. This isn't to say like, oh, expats bad. Not at all. Like if we have to make the choices that we have to make. I have a bunch of friends and a bunch of even colleagues that who've immigrated, and they just said they've got a better opportunity. I see this the slander happening again against jazz. I won't stand for it. But anyways, yeah, it's just like they have their reasons, and I don't for a moment hold it against them because if you have a better opportunity, to like to have your ability to look after your children, and that's what you value, then absolutely go do it. I'm not going to say don't do it, but I think I am too. Ek stel lief vir die land. Ek stel lief vir, jy weet, by kultuur en my and I'm switching to Afrikaans now. Maar ja, ek stel lief vir Afrikaans wees om ek dink ek sal baie sukkel met so 'n besluit as dit sin maak. I'll be awake, like nights after nights, and that's I think there for South Africa's problems, I think there are a lot of solutions. I think a lot of it is a lot more grassroots and like community focused than we realize. But yeah, that's and I'm rambling a bit, but that's pretty much it from me.
All right. Tian, thank you. I wasn't sure where this conversation was going, but I had a good time. I hope you had too.
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well.
I hope the people watching had a good time as well. So this will be live on Spotify and obviously on YouTube. So just check out Spotify Undercurrents. It will be there as well. And Tian, thank you so much for joining me. I really, really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
The pleasure is all mine. And for those watching, thank you so much. Have a good rest of the Friday. Have an excellent weekend. And yeah, I think the message, from both the guests and I is like, spend time with your kids, man. Just include them in many, many things. And that's what we've done, and it's worked really well. Anyway, that's my only lesson. Thanks. Have a good weekend. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, thanks.